Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Friday. Welcome to the 17th of November, 2023, and another edition of In the Car with Star in the aftermath of the Montreal Canadiens losing streak, growing by one game. They've lost three in a row, but last night was a little bit different. If you're just joining us on this Friday, the Canadiens entertained the defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights shortly after Vegas and Montreal tangled a couple of weeks ago, and in the early blushes of the season, Montreal's home and home with the Vegas Golden Knights is over. Before I get on to the point that I'd like to make today in the aftermath of Montreal losing 6-5 to Vegas, what's up with the schedule makers in the National Hockey League? I mean, sometimes I get the impression that the NHL schedule makers like live in this mail it in Friday kind of realm, right? Where it's like, are we trying to grow this game? Are you trying to have a significant impact in growing the product at the National Hockey League level? Or are we just kind of just going through the motions and the league is just satisfied with the fan base that they have? And if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, then they're not going to lose any sleep and they're just going to go on their merry little way. It makes very little sense in my brain that the Montreal Canadiens, by the time November 17th have rolled around, have played the Vegas Golden Knights twice, and the Boston Bruins, they're going to play them for the second time coming up tomorrow night from Beantown on this dad's trip. But like, what happened? What happened to the days of Montreal and Boston playing 8 times, getting the Ottawa Senators more involved on a regular basis? Instead, it's like dealing with the Calgary Flames and the Vancouver Canucks again, and the Arizona Coyotes and the early blushes. It's just not something I'm in favor of. And I'm not here to tell you that I've got the answers and I have it all figured out when it comes to the NHL schedule makers. It seems a little too repetitive, too early for me. But I digress. We're talking about 17 games as a sample size. I just want more rivalry games. I want more games where I'm counting down the hours before puck drop. And look, I mean, last night's game at the Bell Center against Vegas turned out to be a hell of a hockey game. I'm sure the coaches, on both sides of the game last night weren't cheering for 11 combined goals and this lack of defensive structure that kind of showed itself in that 6-5 decision yesterday. So on the surface, like, I wasn't expecting that level of fireworks. Why? Because look, Montreal has scored 3 combined goals in their last couple of games. They haven't scored more than 3 goals in a game since October 28th. So, it's a long run of play for the Canadiens offense to kind of wake up a little bit here and come to life. And so when you went into the game against Vegas, not only are the Vegas Golden Knights a potent team, the defending Stanley Cup champs, but they're all also rocking, outside of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, the hottest goaltender in the National Hockey League by the name of Adin Hill, who came to Montreal with a 7-1-1 record and a .939 save percentage. And the Montreal Canadiens, on their first shot of the night, and what a shot it was, by the way, by Alex Newhook, beats Adin Hill. The Canadiens' shooting percentage was 1,000 in the early goings of that hockey game. And then, of course, Jonathan Kovacevic makes it 2-0 Montreal. And you're like, wow, wait a minute here. Let's start the parade. Montreal has found their goal-scoring touch again. And did anyone else notice this? Because I did honestly laugh out loud at one point. Not only does Alex Newhook score, and again, yeah, nice goal, Josh Anderson is one of the first guys in the embrace. And then Jonathan Kovacevic scores. First goal of the season. Who's in the embrace right away? It's Josh Anderson. This, after everyone's watching Josh Anderson and warm up and practice fire shots. He beats Caden Primo, and his teammates cheer during the skate yesterday. Everyone hoping to see Josh Anderson score a goal. No, it doesn't happen. The Canadiens score 5. Anderson isn't one of the 5 goal scorers. Jesse Ullinen got a pair of goals yesterday. Justin Barron scored the 5th and final goal. We talked about the goals that Newhook and Kovacevic scored. And the Montreal Canadiens lose a 6-5 game in which they had leads of 2-0 and 3-1. And I'll remind you that Vegas came to Montreal fresh off a 3-0 loss to the Washington Capitals the night before. So, Vegas had one day in between games, and right away Montreal puts them on their heels. And this is another example, really, of the Montreal Canadiens still in the growing phase of their rebuild. That I think a quality club, a team with experience that doesn't panic or sweat these tight hockey games, probably puts away a team like Vegas. But sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, sometimes I forget that there's another team on the ice with Montreal, and you got to give credit to Jonathan Marchessault and Mark Stone and Shea Theodore, who had a big game, and Alex Pietrangelo was all over the place. Vegas is obviously a great hockey team, a reason why they went out and closed and won their first ever Stanley Cup. And, you see how littered they are with all of this talent. Jack Eichel on the power play, which brings me to, I suppose, my main point here on In the Car with Star, proudly brought to you by Little Bear Pet Store in Westmount. Find them online at Little Bear Online. Outside of yourself and however large your family is, all of you care about your pets at home. After that, the next person that cares about your pet as much as you do is Little Bear, and Chuck and his amazing staff at Little Bear on St. Catherine, right on the corner of Green Avenue. You can stop and get fresh bagels and then walk right into Little Bear. It's a family-owned and operated store. Unbeatable prices. You're not paying for high retail for these big box chain stores. We're keeping it local. We're shopping local. We're supporting local. And they've got, even if they don't have it, and I'll be shocked if they don't have it in store, because they have everything for your pets, from toys to the best food, fresh food that they keep in the fridge, or you can buy the more traditional kibbles. They have all the options, and they are experts on the nutritional value that meets your pet's needs. And they deliver. Little Bear online, go check them out, or better yet, in-house. They're open now on St. Catherine in Westmount, St. Catherine and Green Avenue. Little Bear, littlebearonline.com. The main point of my entry today is the Montreal Canadiens in 2023-24 have taught me this about myself. I need to be patient. I need to be a more patient person, because I had a hard time a little bit. As much as I like that game and as fun as it was, I went on the air this morning and I'm like, you know what? The Montreal Canadiens lose that game, blow two goal leads, and kind of fall apart in that third period. And what happens after that? The power play, special teams, they give up a shorthanded goal. They give up a Jack Eichel power play goal. Vegas scores 3 times on 7 power play opportunities. And Brendan Gallagher with the dumbest of dumb penalties that we haven't seen in a minute. Like, reaching late in game, takes a double minor for high sticking. It's not the first time we've seen that from Brendan Gallagher, a veteran guy who should know a little bit more than what he does. In the meantime, he makes a mistake, and Jack Eichel and the potent Vegas Knights make them pay, and Montreal falls to 5-6 on Bell Center ice. I got used to them winning. I got used to them playing up-tempo, scoring goals hockey, and that went away. And as I mentioned off the top, yes, it has shown you that the Montreal Canadiens still have a lot of room to grow in terms of finishing off the rebuild, and that they're not close to being done just yet. But now what? I mean, is this the same as last year? And I'm going to tell you what I don't want to see. You know what scares me more than aliens destroying planet Earth? Is the Montreal Canadiens finishing 15th in the National Hockey League. That's what scares me. Because honestly, between you and I here, that is an utter waste of time. And I've said it. It's not, I'm not just saying it now. I've been preaching this for a while. Either be really good or be really bad. Because mediocrity in all things, sports, life, otherwise, is death. Don't be mediocre. Strive for greatness, or strive to be great. And in order to be great, you got to break it down, and you got to draft really well. And sometimes you got to go with the consensus pick. And in an offensive generational draft, maybe don't go with a defenseman. Maybe try to shoot for the stars and land a superstar, who, by the way, Matvei Michkov, I'm not saying he's a superstar, but he's more or less a point-a-game player now in the KHL. And the Philadelphia Flyers can't wait to see this guy make the leap over to the National Hockey League, if and when he ever does. But that's what this team has taught me. I am not patient. I am not patient enough. And a game like last night reminded me of that. Because here we are again, kind of similar to last year, right? The Montreal Canadiens, going into their game last night, were a point off the pace that they had set for themselves out of the gate last year. They're winning games, scoring goals, avoiding injury, and boom, Kirby Dach's done for the season. Arbor Xhekaj gets absolutely leveled by even Barbashev. Like, Barbashev is like 6 feet tall, and yes, he's obviously quite the strong individual, because I've never seen Arbor Xhekaj get treated and thrown into the corner boards the way he was thrown into the corner boards. And by the way, he goes to the bench, the trainer puts a hand on Xhekaj's shoulder, and Xhekaj goes right to the tunnel. And apparently, it's been reported that the injury that Xhekaj suffered is not the injured shoulder that he got fixed last year. It's the other one. So at least if there's a silver lining to all this nonsense, that's the silver lining. But yeah, I have a hard time being patient. I have a hard time being patient watching this and, seeing the wins, riding the wave, and then it all kind of come back down a little bit. And now Montreal goes on the road. They're going to be on the road for a while. They're not going to see the Canes back on Bell Center Ice, at least for not for a couple of weeks. And it starts Saturday in Boston. And the Bruins are great. The Bruins are full value, looking very, very strong, obviously. And there's one thing that I did appreciate in the aftermath of the Canadiens kind of falling apart there in the third period. Canadian Primo was brilliant in that first period, keeping the Montreal Canadiens in it. I mean, Vegas, came to play, as we talked about already. They lost 3-0 to Washington on the road, and then come to Montreal, and they're already down 2-0 by the time the game is 20 minutes deep, and then Vegas mounts their comeback. But they had upwards of 20 high-danger scoring opportunities. And if not for Caden Primo, this game probably gets blown out a little bit more than how it looked, with Vegas mounting comebacks several times en route to finally finishing off Montreal in a 6-5 final. And what I appreciated from Martin St. Louis, truthfully, was that he didn't come out and give us any jack-handy, deep-thought takes on what a game that was and we were so good in possession and ba. He came out and said the Gallagher penalty shouldn't have happened. That's not good. He shouldn't do that. He knows better. And Nick Suzuki talking about how we let them off the hook. You play with fire, you get burned. That's exactly what the Montreal Canadiens did. So, on that level, I was happy that Suzuki and MSL didn't spit out cliches or provide these Jack Handy-esque deep thoughts about a game that they were in it. And then probably, like I said, good teams put away a team like Vegas in that spot last night. But Montreal is not close to finding themselves in that category of 2-goal lead is going to be good 90% of the time. The Montreal Canadiens aren't there yet. But I was happy to see Jesse Ylönen score 2 nice goals. I really like this game. A lot of people in the National Hockey League have told me this guy's shot is way above average and that he's earning his spot in the rotation. Look, Raphael Harvey-Pinard was hurt, so he couldn't play yesterday. MSL's trying to have a rotation because Pezzetta's playing okay, Ylönen's playing okay, and so nobody's being healthy scratch because they're underperforming. You just got to keep guys in the rotation. You got to keep them in the mix, and that's not what's happening. So I think if Ylönen can have more games, obviously like he played yesterday, he's not going to have to worry about whether he's in the lineup card or not. All you got to do is handle your business. So from the depth perspective, I liked what I saw. And look, the Canadiens scored 5 goals in a hockey game. That in itself is all right. But there's still a lot of room left to grow for this organization, front office and on the ice. But it's a fun ride. I just have to teach myself, to just be a little bit more patient. And that's what I learned in the aftermath of the Canadiens blowing 2-goal leads and a 6-5 regulation time loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. Athanasios, what's on the menu today, Sean? Yeah, no menu today. I'm fat enough as it is. I don't need to be eating fatty sandwiches multiple times a week. I'm going to try to stick to once a week with some food reviews and Montreal Canadiens reviews as we move along. Next year is when these guys have to up their game and really try for a playoff spot. You may be right. You may be right there. But remember, in the early goings, and we're only 17 games deep, so it's like still early goings. We haven't hit the 20-game marker, but nevertheless, Martin St. Louis, when it came to answering questions about when's Caden Primo going to play, remember, Caden Primo almost went 2.5 weeks between starts, that they're starting Montembeault, they're starting Jake Allen because they're trying to make the playoffs. So much like last year, they saw the wins pile up, and now they're trying to make the playoffs. So that's what they're doing. And obviously, it feels kind of similar to last year. But the worst thing you could do is be dead and be mediocre. In the Car with Star, brought to you by Little Bear. Little Bear Online. They deliver to you. Go check them out. Little Bear Online.